Sitaram, dear viewers, and welcome to another presentation of the Hindu perspective here on IETV. This, of course, is a special program of the Board of Swaha here on IETV, and I'm Pandit Ishwar Madhu Maharaj, the Secretary of the Dharma Mandal, and I do request that you remain with us for the next hour as we discuss a very important topic that I think is of great relevance to all of us, not just Hindus, but every individual. I also want to say special thanks to Pandit Manidev Prasad and Pandit Balram Prasad ji, who would have been, of course, with you for the last few weeks. And I think it was excellent program the last few weeks, looking at the various topics that were covered. I want on behalf of the other presenters today to say special thanks to them for leading together with Pandit Gyandeo, who was there also, and a few other guests for those last few set of programs. We continue again, and there are three members of the Mandal with me today. And in a short while, you will hear exactly what our topic is. But as we are accustomed to, we always begin with prayer. I ask everyone, we just bow our heads. If it is possible, you close your eyes. We join together as we focus upon divinity, Bhagwan Ganapati, that one who gives us knowledge and helps to remove obstacles from our life. In our minds, Om Ganganapati Namaha. Om Yam Brahma Vedanta Vido Vadanti Param Pradhanam Purushantathanye Vishwagate Karam Ishwaram Va Tasmai Namo Vigna Vinashinaya Om Sri Vigneshwaraya Namaha Om Shri Saraswatye Namaha. Bole Shri Gajanan Swami Ki Jai, Swaha Mata Ki Jai. I hand over to Pandit Jaidath Maharaj, who will actually introduce our other panelists for today and will give you the topic. Sitaram.
Thank you very much, Pandit Ishwar. And let me say once again, special welcome to the Hindu perspective. And as usual, we have on our panel, Pandit Ishwar, Secretary of the Dharma Mandal or the Board of Swaha, and we have our senior Pandit, member of the Board of Swaha, Pandit Gyandeo. And today we also have one of the past presidents of Swaha, a member of the Board of Swaha, Pandit Umadutt Maharaj. Pandit Umadutt, by profession, is an insurance agent, part of the financial sector. He also does financial advising and consultancy, as well as Pandit Umadutt has been very successful in this field of financial security, and through his business and his efforts, he has won many awards for the effort that he has made through his company. So that today we are going to speak a little bit about finance and financial stability and the importance of finance as it relates to Hinduism and the Hindu. Now, our program, as we have always said and we have always reiterated, that we are looking at current issues. In addition to that, we are looking at current issues in the context of what our scriptures say to us. What is the scriptural view on all of these different topics that we speak about from week to week, so that financial stability is very important for every single one of us. We all know that without finances, there's nothing that we can do in this life. And so to begin our topic and to introduce and to give us some quotes from the scriptures, of course, we always go to our senior Pandit, Pandit Gyandeo, who will begin our discussions, and then he will introduce our guest presenter for today, Pandit Umadutt.
Thank you, Panditji. I will take, first of all, from the Gita, that part which says, speaks about wealth. Most people know when it's about wealth, it's about Lakshmi Mata. But actually, in the Gita, Krishna Bhagavan, chapter 10, he says, Main ekadash Rudra mein Shankar hu. I have the 11 Rudras, I am Bhagavan Shankar. और धन का स्वामी कुबेर हूँ, and the god of wealth, I am Kuber. So Krishna Bhagavan is saying, maybe you hardly hears about Kuber. There's not much known about him. But he said, I am Kuber, the god of wealth. So right away, Krishna Bhagavan is saying that wealth is important and there's a god of wealth. And he said, many people may have heard Lakshmi Mata, but I always ask people, if you know the prayer of Lakshmi Mata, it says, Om Siddhi Buddhi Prade Devi Bhukti Mukti Pradayani, Mantra Mujisra Devi, Mahalakshmi Namastute. Nowhere in that it speaks all wealth. Om Siddhi Buddhi Prade Devi. It also devotion, for liberation, for all the correct things in life. It doesn't emphasize wealth. So the god of wealth as such, according to Krishna Bhagavan, is Kuber. We're not saying Lakshmi Mata is the god of wealth. I don't know how it came about from a religious point of view, but from the Gita we are saying is Kuber. If you worship Lakshmi, the god of wealth, fine. But the important thing is wealth is important in our lives. Without wealth, we are nobody. Without wealth, you can't do puja. You can't buy ingredients. Without wealth, you can't build a temple. Without wealth, you can't do anything. So wealth is extremely important. And don't let people fool you and tell you wealth is not important. And many people say, oh, give away your wealth. And if you away, then you get blessings. That is not so. That is a fallacy. So we shall discuss this in detail. And as we have with us, Umadutt Maharaj, as he has been introduced, and this is one aspect of wealth. How do you build wealth? How do you develop yourself? And what is the purpose of wealth? To use it for devotion and to perpetuate your family and your traditions. So when you have wealth, wealth is used constructively. So one of the ways of developing wealth is you'll hear, as Umadutt will speak about, how you go about developing wealth. Many people, there's something called life insurance. I myself, my early life, I always found life insurance to be something I'm very skeptical about. But now in my later stage, I regret it. I think they got more life insurance because you have cash value and you have value to leave for your family. What are you going to leave for your family? So there are many aspects of wealth which can be developed in addition to savings and bank and so on. So I'll pass on to Umadutt, who will begin discussion as he sees fit on this wealth development for each and every one of us, which is extremely important. Umadutt.
Thank you very much, Panditji, Pandit Gyandeo, senior member of the Dharam Mandal of Swaha, President of Swaha, Pandit Jaidath Maharaj, Secretary of the Mandal, Pandit Ishwar Madhu Maharaj. Firstly, let me say thank you very much for inviting me here this evening to take part in this very productive program, I would say, Hindu Perspective. And just to make a point that we have many devotees wherever we go. We hear people speak of the program, so which means that the program is doing well. And the program has basically served the purpose which it has been, geared towards at the initial stages, which is to disseminate knowledge. And as Pandit mentioned, not only in the part of spirituality, but in the part of life. And this is most important. So, we'll begin discussion by saying that, as Pandit mentioned, wealth is very important. Now, I just want to mention that there'll be, whatever I'm saying, if any of the pundits would like to intervene and, ask any questions or put in their perspective, that's okay, because I don't want to be talking for the whole program. Just whatever my ideas are in my head. So as Pandit mentioned, wealth is very, very important. And as we know, we have the four Purushartha of Sanatana Dharma, Arth, Dharam, Kam, or Moksha. That there is what is referred to as Arth, material development, Dharma, virtuous actions, Kam, legitimate sensuous pleasures, and Moksha, which is realization. And all of this is based on stability. That, as we say, a beggar cannot renounce. So if you're unwealthy, and when you say unwealthy here, what it means, we don't only talk about having the biggest house or the biggest car, the most amount of money in the bank. Wealthy general terms. That you must have some sort of stability in order to continue development of Earth. If you do not have wealth, you cannot have legitimate sensuous pleasures. You'll not be able to enjoy, right? And then obviously, without wealth, your other dharma will be adharma, because you will find other illegitimate means of acquiring wealth, which is not really the best thing. And obviously, as I mentioned in the beginning, you'll not be able to focus on the divine and do what you're supposed to do according to Panagyan, to perform your puja, etc., to achieve that blessings, lack of a better term, if you don't have wealth. So the foundation of life is based on these four Purushartha, development of Arth, Dharam, Kam, or Moksha. And, as they say, wealth can be distributed or is to be distributed in three different ways when acquired. One, legitimate sensuous pleasures. You have your family, Every year we take them for holidays. We do whatever we have to do in order to make sure that they're happy. So, legitimate sensuous pleasure. Secondly, wealth is to be distributed from the point of for putting aside for a rainy day, for health, etc., emergencies. And thirdly, charity, giving of charity, right? Making charity in terms of giving to the Brahmins, performance of puja, yagas, etc. But I will say that in order for us to really have that, we must have, first thing to begin with, the foundation of everything is a stable life, a stable job, a stable education. And this is where I will extend a bit by saying the 4 stages in life is very, very important that we take it very seriously. So we have Brahmacharya, Grihasti, Vampras, and Sannyas. Now, in order for us to really develop ourselves materially, to know that what is to be done legitimately, in order to make, lack of a better term, we say make money, put yourself on a firm foundation legitimately, is the first stage of life is important. Brahmacharya, the student stage, which is usually between 0 to 25. So this is why the holy ones are giving us this stage of life, between 0 to 25, that within this period of time, this is where you notice most of the time you go to school, you acquire knowledge, you acquire whatever is needed in order to set yourself a proper foundation to launch yourself to the second stage of life. So in order for wealth to be acquired legitimately, you must have a proper foundation, which is the educational aspect of life. And many, many times, we hear people say that, I don't have to go to school, I could just become a businessman. But in order for you to be a businessman in a proper way, doing that which is right, you must have the basic foundation. You must have the education, the educational background, the certification, etc. So this is why Sanatana Dharma says that this stage of life, the student stage, is very important in order to proceed forward successfully. So
let me just intervene here. If you don't mind, you have mentioned some very important points. I want to link it to what's going on in society right now. Recently, we had a C results. And unfortunately, they're not saying who come first, who come highest, which in my opinion is very unfortunate. They're not recognizing merit. Now, what has happened over the years, rightly, as you rightfully said, social mobility is based upon education. If the education system is poor, you have no social mobility. So we are saying in Trinidad, the education system is very poor. Judging from the last CA results, how many people get under 30%, Ishwar?
But 12,000, I think, I say.
A large percentage.
Yeah.
They took away laptops. Children are going to go to school. Children don't have devices to study. So the education system is very poor. So what is happening? You have children not being given an opportunity to move up in society by having a good education. And we tie this into what is happening tomorrow. Is tomorrow Guru Purnima, where we pay respect to our gurus, and teachers are two different things. A spiritual teacher is a guru. One who teaches maths and English and Spanish is not a guru, is a teacher. The Dhyapak, they make difference. So what you have mentioned, Omar, is very important. And we are saying, if no matter how hard you try, if no matter how hard you try, if you don't have the foundation, as you said, children will remain spinning, as you said locally, top in mud. There is no proper schooling. They can't get books. They can't get all these things. The education system needs to be revamped. And when this happens, and children are given all the tools of education, we can have a society which can improve. Otherwise, 5-10 years from now, the society will get getting worse and worse. Crime will be higher and higher because people, the easiest way, if you have education, is to go and kill somebody, shoot somebody, rob somebody, thief somebody. So this is what people do. So we are saying the education system is the basis for attacking crime. So if you have a poor education system, crime will continue to rise. So Pandamana, I just want to make that input as you speak. Because you rightfully said, it is the basis. And the basis, the foundation is weak, then nothing can go up. If the foundation is weak, the house will fall down. So we need from the primary school to make sure these children are given proper education. When we go to secondary school, then they are also given a proper education. So we don't have these unfortunate circumstances of fights and indiscipline in school. So there's a great fall in the education system. And we need to get together and really see what needs to be done. Too many committees. As I was saying, committees hold meetings that have minutes and waste hours. They have many minutes, but waste hours. So let's get something done, what needs to be done. And I don't think parents will be blamed. Parents try their best. each parent want the best for the child. I don't know how you can blame a parent for saying the parents' fault, society is going bad. Each parent want the best. So what is going wrong really? We shall continue the discussion. I pass back to Umadutt, Ishwar, Jaidath, whoever wish to continue.
I will just like to make an input here and definitely agree with everything that Pandit Umadutt is saying. And Pandit Gyandeo also, one of the points you are making, which I agree totally, we always hear this that it is a parent's fault, it's a parent's responsibility. And I agree to a certain extent. It is a parent's responsibility to ensure that a child grows up in the right way and they avoid a life of crime and all of that. But I was having a discussion with someone recently, and that's a very easy statement to say for someone like us, that we have grown up in families where we had parents. We still have, well, some still have parents, one or the other, but we at least at the stage where we have built that foundation, as Pandit Umadutt mentioned. And to build that foundation, all of us who are sitting here, we know the sacrifice that was made by grandparents and parents. They give us that benefit. That was a different time. But now we are seeing, and Pandit Ishwar, you could probably attest to this, that you have situations where parents are unable to take on that role. So that a parent would get up when it is still dark. They have to go and work two jobs simply to feed their children. So the children are not seeing the parents. The parents come back late in the night. There's no one to supervise the children. And in the mind of that parent, or the choice that that parent has to face, is either I feed the child or I teach the child what is right from wrong. And if a parent has to do that, then the choice obviously is to feed that child. So that all of this speaks to some of the realities in our society. And Pandit Gyandeo, you mentioned that there's need to revamp the education system. I agree with you totally, but my view is that things don't operate in isolation. So the education system, that is one problem, but that is symptomatic of a bigger problem, that everything is linked. There's no silos. The political, the economical, the social, the educational, all of these are linked. And unless the leadership, those who are in power, whoever it may be, this is not political, but whoever may be governing the country, unless they put the systems in place to address these issues, where parents may have the time and all of that to spend with their children, then you're always going to see these situations occurring. So that this finance is very important. Wealth is very important, is the foundation, is the basis of everything. Without wealth, that whole education, as you mentioned, those things cannot happen. And it affects everything that happens in the future of a person, of an individual. So I don't know, I mean, Pandit Ishwar, if you want to contribute here, then we pass back over to Pandit Umadutt.
Yes, certainly. Yes, so definitely, I think that the topic that we're discussing today, the whole idea of wealth and how it relates to life, even starting from early on, children, the way our society has been, how to put it, set up. Pandit Umadutt brought in, the four stages of life, talking about brahmachari stage. But it's almost as though things are set well for certain, children. You're born into a home where maybe an affluent home. You're born into a home perhaps where they can afford the best care for you, the best of facilities and the best of resources for you. And you attend the school that perhaps maybe, a highly prized school in the community, in the area, and you excel. And then there are others, we would have seen it, Pandit Gyandeo mentioned, and Pandit Umadutt also, there are a number of them, of our students recently, we would have seen with SEA, that about 9,000 of them that actually did not make a passing mark. What would have accounted for that? 2 years online. Did all children have access to proper resources so they could have been taught properly? Were all teachers properly equipped? So it's not just the children, also there are teachers also that did not even have the resources to teach effectively. The government provided, but as a principal, I could tell you, it was not enough in many cases. Right? From the secondary school, we had to loan resources to primary schools in the area. The primary school teachers, standard 5 SCA teachers, actually had to borrow devices from secondary schools that may have had the extra. Now, it doesn't mean that they were wanting or they didn't want to teach, but all these are shortcomings, in our own society. As all tied in, to everything that we are discussing today. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. So if from young our children are not getting free access or equal access to certain resources as we would want, they're already being set up, not set up for failure, but they're starting off at a disadvantage. So all the more reason why wealth management or financial security is extremely important. And on the before we go to our break, there's one important point. Pandit Umadutt, Pandit Gyandeo will know this well. Pandit Jaidath also. Panditji spoke about Gita. What Gita is saying. I remember it being asked by one of the 7 questions Guruji asked Kak Bushundi in the end, Uttarakhand. He says, "Tell me what is the greatest suffering or the greatest misery one can face?" And Kak Bushundi answered, "Poverty. There's no greater misery or suffering than poverty." And you could expand or extrapolate upon that ad nauseum, but poverty. And this is from Sri Ramcharit Manas. So when we talk about wealth and earth, extremely important for us to all pay attention. At this time, we'll go to a break. Do remain with us. Join us back in a couple minutes. Sitaram.
Join us as we explore contemporary issues facing societies worldwide. Interviews and discussions featuring local and international experts. You can participate in our live call-in segments, a program of the board of SWAHA.
Join live every Tuesday evening at 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. and prime time at 7 p.m.
Welcome back, pundits and viewers. Now, as we can see, that this is a very extensive topic that we started with the discussion of Brahmacharya, Grihasti, Vampra, Sannyas, but as you can see, the amount of information that has been given only from that one stage of Brahmacharya. Now, we'll continue on that field, I in particular, because I have a firm conviction, and I'm sure all pundits will attest to this too, that what our parents taught us many years ago, as a matter of fact, they'll force us many years ago. And I can remember my mother, the late Pandit Binmati Maharaj, she would say, if you want to wake late Saturday night, that's your business, get up Sunday morning and you have to go to temple. Become part of the temple. And I remember in those days, we would attend the temple by my Nana, the late Shankaracharya. And there is where you learn most of your foundation, getting most of the foundation in terms of how to live your life. So when we speak of Brahmacharya, that the principles, the values, is there at the temple, you will learn the importance of truth, right? The importance of honesty, being straightforward, non-competitiveness, as we say, non-stealing, etc. And all this, in my opinion, will form the foundation that a young individual will need, a student, in order to transcend to the second stage of life. Because as Pandit Jaidath mentioned, not everybody will be born in an affluent home. Ishwar also mentioned that. But there are many who wasn't in such fortunate circumstance, but what they came out at the end of the day. And the reality is that most of our ancestors, our Shankaracharya to begin with, look at, if you hear his life story from birth, and look at the way he ended up. And many others, many of our Indian politicians, many of our lawyers, our doctors, the senior ones in particular, who came from very humble means. What was the cause of that determination? What was the cause of that motivation to move forward? Not only from the point of becoming educated, but as I mentioned, the principles, the values that existed there. That most of the times you'll hear the parents will say, the only way out of poverty is education. The only way out of this state that you are in is to become educated, to work hard, to earn money in a legitimate way. So this is where, from Sanatana Dharma, my point of view, is very, very applicable. We say Sanatana Dharma. That is not only for Hinduism, it's a general term. that for every individual, in order for it to be financially stable, from the point that not to stray from the point in life legitimately, this most important foundation of education is what is important. And that could be gained. Sometimes, as Pandit Jaidath mentioned, you may have a parent who do have time, that to go garden, that to leave and be traffic to go for the Spain or San Fernando, the case may be. The child is there on their own. This is why we see the parents come in here. And I know many people can attest to this, that because of temple life, attending to temple, they listen to the discourses, listen to the foundation of Sanatana Dharma, the truth of Sanatana Dharma, what is needed in order for positive development. They were able to transcend their lives from one point to the next successfully, whether you're born in a wealthy family or not. So this is why I think that as pundits, as leaders in society, it's important that we get more and more of the younger ones involved at that age, from the age of 0 to 25 basically, in our temples, so that we'll be able to, push towards them, or to introduce to them, or to teach them this foundation of education, of principles, of values, not only secular but also spiritual, because it's a spiritual journey from one point to the next also, from Brahmacharya to Grihasti. Now, maybe I don't know, I can proceed just to the second aspect, if it's okay, the Grihasti Ashram. So the second stage of life is Grihasti Ashram. Now, Grihasti Ashram is where generally 25 to 50 years, where an individual will become married, will accept a husband or wife as the case may be, and will put back into society what you have taken, what you have gained. So this second aspect of life is very, very important. And this is where the true test, as we say, of all that you have gained will be put into place. Because more likely than not, 99.9% of the time, you have few exceptions, that an individual, when you become married, or maybe a little before you're married, you start to work. You start to either open your own business, or you work with a company, whatever the case may be. And this is where you see the real, the test comes of all that you have gained from the first stage into the second stage of life, which is the Grihasti Ashram. Now, this is where, as I mentioned, where you work, you acquire financial wealth, you build your house, you buy your car, you have your children, you start to educate them, etc. And as Pandit Jaidath mentioned, without this foundation that we started from the beginning, it's very difficult. Now, why I'm saying this is that these values, in my opinion, is most important. Because if on the very first stage in life, you have not acquired all these positive virtues, then when you come to the second stage of life, how are you going to live? If you have not gained the importance of being truthful, the importance of being thrifty, the importance of being honest, the importance of being straightforward, all these positive virtues, then when you come into the Grihasti Ashram, which may sound harsh, but we know, we have many, many households are in shambles, as we say. Shambles, where no money, no income. The father is somewhere different, maybe the mother somewhere different, no job, no income, and it's especially with this pandemic situation here, it makes things even worse. That way,
as you're on that point, and I think that's an excellent point. And I know that sometimes in school, they teach some level of entrepreneurship, and Pandit Ishwar again can say the extent to which, teaching persons to be frugal and all of that is taught at the school at that level, because, the impact at that level, I'm not sure if that is the right level. But looking at our institutions, and maybe Pandit Umadutt, all of us here, we are all spiritual leaders of temples. And I guess what I'm asking is that, within our own network, within our temples, do we teach these things? And if not, what may be some of the programs we could have in place to prepare persons as they enter this Grihasti Ashram? While you're in there, if they're struggling, do we have any programs where persons can reach out to us to be able to help with that part? Because as Pandit Umadutt is explaining, and rightly so, that at that stage in your life, a lot of the responsibility is not for you alone. So when I'm a brahmachari, what I do impacts me. When I'm married, it impacts someone else, an entire family, 2-3 lineages, as well as children. And that's a lot of responsibility. And therefore, if you are not frugal, if you do not know how to spend, how to save, then that could lead to some problems. So I'm just asking again, from the Hindu perspective, as well as from ourselves as members of the board of an organization, what may be some of the programs that we have. I know for myself that within our temples, this is something that we intend to start, but we have not started as yet. And how can we probably go about creating a program that we can share across the entire network that will deal with the issues, of financial issues to help families in these situations. So,
Yeah.
so Pandit Umadutt or any one of the members,
Yep.
maybe Pandit Ishwar, you can start with the school system first.
Yeah. Thank you, Pandit Jaidath. So just to continue a little bit from what Pandit Umadutt was saying and Pandit Jaidath, I think it's imperative that children grow up with this whole attitude as importance to be very important to be frugal to a certain extent, to save a little bit. And I could tell you from our temples, it's a topic that we talk about, and I'll come to the school in a little while, but it reminds me of another bit of Ramcharitmanas, Ramayana again. Pandit Umadutt will know this well too. In the Prabharshan Parvat Katha, among the many things, Sri Ram spoke to Lakshman. He spoke about, the lightning flashing and going. How fleeting, the nature of that lightning is, and likening it to the, someone who, and then the water gushing down the rain side. Someone who gets a little bit of, funds, finances, and you fritter it away, you waste it away. When in fact, he's teaching us about financial management there, reminding us of the importance of putting and saving, putting a little bit away for the future. Now, our children at school, I could say it's something that we still have to, apart from our kathas and our discourses, where we encourage them along the lines similar to what Pandit Umadutt is speaking about today. In school, we do have a formalized way of encouraging them, and that's through the junior cooperative. Pandit Gyandeo would know this quite well too, where we have a number of students. At our school, it's close to about 50 students, which is really a small subset, but that still is fairly relatively large in that these children are aggressively, looking at their financial future then and saving. And by the time just putting a little bit every month or every week, by the time they graduate, it's thousands of dollars that they have that they could use, to give them a head start at university or whatever it may be. And it is not much that they put in, just little by little, and they are able to see the benefits of it. So the junior cooperative, that's one way in which schools have been able to do it, and we do have that well instituted there at SWAHA. We have our teachers, two of our teachers that normally assist with that. And then, of course, it's part of our regular, again, talking to them. We have done this, Dharm, Kam, and Moksha, talk to them about the 4 stages in life, where these points are made to them, but that is one effective way, junior cooperative society, that exists at our school and perhaps other schools. But it's not to say that I'm suggesting this as the only way. I'm sure there may be other parallel or similar programs institutionalized in other places that work well. But to Pandit Umadutt and to our viewers, I want you to know that this is one very effective way that we have been seeing benefits of at SWAHA Hindu College.
And Pandit Umadutt, Pandit Gyandeo, in terms of the temples and the SWAHA network, how do we go about, because, the view is that temples are there for praying, right? And if you do it for any other purpose, then it's wrong. You can't use a temple for anything else. But, we have to look at repurposing our centers to make it more relevant to what are the needs of our society. So maybe Pandit Gyandeo and Pandit Umadutt, you can share your views on whether, we can repurpose our temples to accommodate things like these that are really needed in our society at this time.
Umadutt, you go ahead.
Okay, well, I'll just give an example that I use, how I proceed with my services. And this is what I've learned a long while now. So now, as we mentioned, that we talk about wealth. But it's important for us to understand that wealth is not only material wealth, from a materialistic point of view. Because as we say, if you don't have virtues, then everything else goes through the shoot, as we say. So, like whenever I do my discourses, I speak about wealth, but then I always bring in that what Lakshmi Mata really represents sticks for spiritual wealth. We say Shat Sampat. serenity, tranquility of mind, control of senses, endurance, faith, renunciation of selfish actions and desires. I always mention, I say, if you analyze, when we speak of these Shat Sampat, 6 sort of spiritual wealth, that have nothing to do with bank book, nothing to do with bank account, nothing to do with land deed, nothing to do with car insurance, nothing to do with house insurance, nothing like that. It's virtues. And this goes right back to the foundation that when we went to temple, well, at least when I went to temple and we were forced, in those days, you don't want to go, you don't want to get up early Sunday morning. These are the things that you learn. That without these spiritual virtues, and as a matter of fact, I don't know what the take on this is, but this is what I've learned, is that when you put up a flag for Lakshmi Ma, we put up a pink flag, right? Representing the both mixture of spiritual and material. Because in reality, according to Pandit Jaidath, you don't have a house, you don't have a car, and I mentioned this in my satsang also, that any Pandit tell you materialism is not good, something wrong with them. I always say, well, give me the hatu santa mind, give me a car, give me a deed, give me everything, I need it. So materialism is important, but we keep saying it's not the end, it is the means towards the end. That you have material wealth, which is important, critical, which is the foundation. But at the end of the day, if you do not have these spiritual values to go together with the material wealth, then you are doomed. And we see it in many, individuals' lives, right, who have a lot of wealth, they have no control, they spend while, they lose all their money, end up like paupers. Then you have individuals who have very little. And I know I'll bring the point to the Shankaracharya. And I always mention, as long as I live, I will remember this. Papa used to walk around the yard and pick up the 1 cent from the yard. And he asked Papa, why are you doing that for? I know this statement was simple, If you have 99 cents, you don't have a cent, you have $1. That was his statement. You have 99 cents, you do not have 1 cent, you have $1 and I can't buy a sweetie. So the whole essence in that action that he performed is that of non-wastage. Being able to acquire. It's not like it didn't have purpose, but the whole point about that, looking at the respect of wealth. That you have wealth, it is to be respected. This is why we say, and I mentioned in the beginning, that it distribute our wealth in 3 ways. Legitimate sensuous pleasures, put aside for a rainy day, and charity. That you do your puja, you give, you accept, or the case may be. So, but bring it back to the Grihastha Ashram now. I'm sure many of you would know, and we see it in many, especially now the times, how difficult it is. Parents are unable to buy books. Why? They don't have a job. Right? And if you look at it, I'm not trying to put down anybody or discredit anyone, but in reality, in order for you to survive in this world right now, you have to have a substantial job. You have to have a substantial job, bringing a substantial amount of wealth, as the case may be, to mind yourself and your family. But when you see, from the very beginning, we do not inculcate, these values and principles into our children, they might end up the same way. That's why it is so important that from a young age, we put these values within them, so as they go through the course of life, from Brahmacharya to Grihastha, into Grihastha, most of our young ones now are very qualified, lawyers, doctors, engineers, teachers, as the case may be, able to as we say, able to survive in society, bring up their family in a proper way, take care of their family, educate their family, because of the fact of what? They were able to create this proper foundation, not only materially, but the know-how, knowing how to acquire wealth, knowing how to save wealth, and knowing how to be thrifty. In order to, as Pandit mentioned, how to put things in a proper perspective. And this is why I say that even Grihastha Ashram, we could have a lot of problems what we are having now, because as Pandits, you all will know, every day people call, Baba, all have any hampers, my husband are working, my wife are working, I have to get books for my children. I want to analyze the condition, because these values, this foundation wasn't there. So what as Pandits we try to do, is we try to encourage the parents to bring the younger ones to the temple, get them involved, teach them these values. At least we start from some point, teach them these values, teach them these principles, so they don't end up in the same position. But what I will say is, unfortunately, sometimes the parents don't take heed to these requests of the spiritual leaders, and the society remains the same way.
Thank you, Pandit Umadutt, and we'll take a break now, and we'll come back with Pandit Gyandeo.
Join us as we explore contemporary issues facing societies worldwide. interviews and discussions featuring local and international experts. You can participate in our live call-in segments, a program of the board of SWAHA.
Join live every Tuesday evening at 4:30 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. and prime time at 7 p.m.
Welcome back to the Hindu perspective. And this topic indeed is very important. And Umadutt has made many salient points. I'd like to go back a bit. You know, I was invited to graduation for SWAHA Hindu College, by Ishwar and his staff. And I went there and I was amazed to see that on graduation day, how many parents were there? They were there supporting their child or their children. And from my understanding, we have nearly every single school from preschool going up, they have graduation now. So parents are supporting children only one time for graduation. Do they support children only when it's graduation day, or graduation ball, or graduation exercise? Do they support them before? I was amazed to see in the media a lady speaking about her daughter. I know that was saying no mass, no service. She said no money, no school. This is the situation we have in Trinidad and Tobago, where parents say, I have no money, my child cannot go to school. And she's not alone. There are many like that. So when you examine and see exactly what's going on really. A child passed the C exams and education is completed, it can't go anywhere else. So this is why I said initially, and any government which has sense, simple common sense will tell you, education is the basis for development. You want to have a good crime plan, have a good education plan. You want to have a good economic plan, have a good education plan. The education plan is like a root which gives rise to everything else. So if we ignore education, deprive the children of what is theirs rightfully, then what happens? Crime will continue going out of hand, economics will continue going down, social systems will continue going down, because when children are suffering, they say a man's belly controls his heart. Child is hungry, parent is hungry. What do you do? So we can't overemphasize that education needs to be attended to. And those economists can check and see how much money is given to education, how much money is given to national security, how much money is given to other areas where education is deprived. So I am on firm view that we need to give education what it needs to get. Primary school, secondary school, and take them up. And without that, we are spinning top in mud. We need to attend to the education system. I hope the authorities are listening. It needs to be done, and done urgently. Otherwise, crime will continue going spiral out of control. The economy will keep going down, and already we have it called a brain drain. Nurses are leaving, doctors are leaving, people who are fortunate enough to have education are leaving. What will happen to this community? What will happen to this country in 5-10 years' time if we don't look at it carefully? So it is important. All points are important. Parents, nothing hurts their parents more than to know that when the day comes, they can't give the child education nor food. And this is where the greatest ashram come in. I've married, I have children. I can't look after them. I'm failing my duty. How many jobs have been lost over the years? How many continue to lose jobs? Is there any plan to get people jobs? Is there any? So this is what we're saying. And we're not bashing the government, It's a reality. If the government is not doing what it's supposed to do, the country will suffer. So jobs are important, education is important, all this is important. So that we have to make sure that these things are looked after and looked after carefully. And each individual, each Trinidadian must say, I am responsible, I must do something. I can't just sit down quiet and say, well, lies them. What the government do, them business. It's our business. It's crime. It's our people are suffering. It's our children suffering. Our institutions are going down. So we have to make sure and do the right things and put systems in place to ensure that those who are capable and competent It's look at maxi taxi. You put a children in a maxi taxi where driver can drive, you'll crash, you can't kill everybody. Similarly, in an economy, if you don't have people ruling economy properly, poor government, what will happen? The whole economy gone through. So we are saying that, and I want to end by saying, and I talk about the graduation, parents are very eager to attend graduation. I wonder if they're so eager to attend the children day-to-day meetings with parents and see how with teachers how they're going. I wonder if they're so eager they are. So my conviction is parents love their children to do the best for them. Of course, there are those who have no parents, but they also have state intervention. This is why you have food fitness, school fitness taken away. You can come to school and get a meal. Uniform, books, there's a book rental program. You don't have to buy books, that's stuff. So children, all the institutions in school, pretty sure, and you are a principal of school rents, book rental, gone through. And uniform, but I know what's going on with that. So we have to say, the support to the students in school is not there. It needs to be there. No matter what you do and what you try to do, school needs to be fixed. School needs to be attended to and given resources to make sure they are correct. And if you do, all crime starts in primary school. All. When a child in primary school can't get what he wants, eventually drop out or go and do something else. So if you want to attend to crime, start in the primary school, start in the secondary school, start looking after our children. Because the children who are small grow up to be criminals when they have nothing else to do. And Curry is convinced of this. So parents, we are concerned. Trinidad and Tobago is concerned about crime, but it's not about applying crime. I call it a crime plan. All of a sudden you bring a plan. Primary school, start somewhere. It will have the effect, maybe in a year or two, but it will have the effect. It still have the effect. I'll pass back over to Ishwar.
Yes. I see time again, everyone. And just to add to what is being discussed here, and to some of the statements that Gyandeo just made. Yes, education system needs to be reformed. Social services also in our country too. It is really suffering. And, while I agree with him, there's also a different perspective. And this is the Hindu perspective, but there may be different perspectives on something, right? So he is quite right. The textbook rental, I could tell you at our institution, we have not received new textbooks that's the textbook management program. For years, books are almost obsolete and they're still there being dispensed and given out. So no new textbooks have been given. And Umadutt, you will know, I could tell you the books that my children will receive in school. Should they want the textbook rental, it is started and torn, and these are the books that are given. So what really encouragement are we giving to our children? It needs fresh, input of resources, brand new material in the schools. And then even transportation, PTSC school transport is not enough. The NSDSL, the school lunches are not enough. But I want to, paint a little picture for you. Just recently, a couple of days ago, I noticed, it would have been yesterday actually, rain is falling fairly heavy and I'm driving to go to Gyandeo to go to school. The principal is normally there during the holidays also. And we are there. And I'm going up and I noticed these children sitting, on the Valencia. I don't want to say exactly where it is. We know there are some parents who are not in the best of circumstances. So the home, very dilapidated, almost like a shack. And these two little children are sitting on the step, pouring rain. These children looking like if they're inside, they're probably getting wet. So they're sitting on the ledge, just, the eave to the outside end. And these children now, I'm thinking, are they getting breakfast? Are they getting lunch? When they come to school, they get a meal to eat for breakfast. As soon as they reach, the breakfast is there waiting for them. At lunchtime, even if mommy or daddy is not working, there's nothing at home, they get a lunch to eat. Extras that remain, sometimes we give students and they take home also. They have a bus or a maxi to take them to school in many cases. These children for these 2 months, what are they going to do? Because I don't know if the parents are working, but looking at the dire circumstances that I witnessed, and that's just, observation of one. I'm sure you will, one home, you will notice it in your own community too. And over the course of the pandemic period, I could tell you for the last 2 years where children were out of school, do you know many of them were suffering because school was a haven for them. They had, their friends there. They had their teachers there, people who motivated them, because at home, what is it? It's cursing, fighting, drugs, unfortunate circumstances, lack of food, lack of resources, poverty. So school was a haven for them. It was taken away. For 2 years, many of our children suffer, and they suffered so much that they cannot come back. They suffered so much. This is why we see so much failure for SEA this year, and sending them to a few weeks of rehabilitation classes or remedial classes is part of it, but that's not the only answer. It's deep down. We have to get to the root of the problem, as Gyandeo and Umadutt we are saying. Social programs, economic programs, wealth development and wealth management programs to help in our communities. But the resources need to be there and pumped by the government. Otherwise, we continue to see suffering. Remember, you can't teach, what's the saying? You cannot teach the hungry man. You can't teach a hungry man or a hungry child anything. They're not ready to learn. So there's so much that I think needs to be done. But Gyandeo hit the nail on the head with where concerns developing our education system and tying it to wealth acquisition and management. Umadutt or Jaidath?
I'll just make my final contribution since time is already going, and I'll give it to a real circumstance. And I always use the statement that education is a visa to freedom. I always tell young ones that education is your visa to freedom. So by a proper education, that's like a visa to whatever difficulties you may be in, you're free from it. Now, I had an actual situation, one of my godson from a very, very poor home. And one day the mother came with the child to speak to me about circumstances. During the pandemic time, I know the things were difficult. And the first statement the mother make is that, Baba, at this stage I am in, I did not do what my parents told me to do, and right now I cannot afford. I do not have a job. I cannot pay for my child's school. I cannot, spend an extra dollar as the case may be. Right? And, I wanted to speak to this young man and try to influence him in some way. And I told him the same thing. I said, boy, as I go around speaking to you, education is a visa to freedom. I say right now, you're in a school where you have free education. As a matter of fact, from now till maybe around at A-levels, you have free education. The most you might have to do is pay for your books, right? And whatever the case may be. But in terms of the actual education itself, it is free. So what I suggest to you is that do not look at the circumstance you're in right now. As we always say, start with the end in mind. We've learned that, in business, etc. You begin with the end in mind. That you start at the point where you know you want to be at the end. So you work within that. Within that time is the goal at the end of the day. So I told him, I said, start from this point. Your parents already did what they could have done. I know that you're in a difficult circumstance, but you have all the sense that is necessary, right? You have all that it takes in order for you to put yourself in order to focus on your development. I know, to cut the whole story short, the boy took me seriously when he wrote his SEA, right? I think he passed one of those schools in Port of Spain. I think so. Well, I can't remember which one it is. Right? After that, he went on to get distinctions in O-levels. He did excellent in A-levels. Right? And from there, somewhere he applied scholarship. He went to university. Right now, he is a lecturer at one of the universities somewhere in America. Right? I did a lost track of him sometimes because, by the way, they asked him the business. But the point about it, the story is what is important. So this is why I say that in this wealth aspect, sticking with the wealth, that at the end of the day, this is what is important. But sometimes, as like the lady, in positions where maybe they didn't have the opportunity to get all this knowledge, and the young man is in a position where he had all the knowledge, right? He had all the faculties, he had all the opportunities, etc., to put himself in a position. Right now, he's actually minding his mother, all because of this foundation. And he was able to increase himself, increase his wealth, increase his status, and well off right now. So to end this whole thing is that wealth is important, but legitimately, we must work towards it. And the whole part of illegitimate wealth, as Panagan, mentioned in terms of whatever, not getting books, etc., that's a whole topic by itself. But the point about it, we stick with the positive that in order for you to really legitimately expand your wealth, expand your riches, is that you must have this proper foundation from the very beginning of education, which will take you through the whole journey, maybe until the end of your time. That's it.
Okay, so Thank you, Pandit Umadutt. And I know that we are quickly approaching the end of our program, and um, we reached Grihasti Ashram, right? That's just 2 out of 4. So that this is certainly a topic that there's so much more we can speak about. And we have heard about some of the realities that are facing our society. Pandit Ishwar mentioned the case of the children. And I mean, I'm sure we all see it when we drive around. Right now, more and more you see persons standing with signs saying that, help them feed their children. You see families sitting at the side of the road. This is a sad reality. The children who are 2 years old and 3 years old, and it's because they've been evicted from their homes because they can't pay rent. These are the realities. And my question, as I always ask at the end of the day, we can speak about all of these things, but what do we do as a society? What are we doing as an organization? And I can tell you that, SWAHA is currently, after a long period, due to the pandemic and of course all of the restrictions, just like everyone else, there's only so much we could have done. But we are looking to see what can we do now that is consistent with our mission and our purpose as a social organization to help to address all of these issues. We have our high school, we have our centers, we have our social service, and obviously we need to look at the realities of our society and to do our part to help. And a big part of this, we may not always be able to take money, physical finance and give it to someone. But as we spoke about earlier, that through our centers and through the expertise of persons like Pandit Umadutt, who are in this field of finance and financial advising, etc., and others also, that we can develop programs to help work with our communities, to help them to find ways to cope with these situations. And as Pandit Ishwar mentioned, some of the issues that we face, some of the children, some of the parents in terms of the pressures, it leads to feelings, suicidal tendencies and all of that. And these are areas, these are the realities that are facing us that we need to deal with. I know that before we close, we'll pass over to Pandit Ishwar, who, unfortunately a member of our organization has passed on. Pandit Ishwar will extend those condolences and he will close up our program for today.
Thank you, Pandit Jaidath. So I think by now it is an incident which has shocked the entire nation, where you would have seen one young man, very fine young individual, 16 years old, a student of Vishnu Boys Hindu College, but for us, a devotee of Om Shakti Mandali in Arangwes, branch of SWAHA, of course, where the spiritual leader, you would have seen Pandit Balaram over the last few weeks. This young man, Kamil Ali, well known, well loved, I will say, by many of the pundits of SWAHA. He served the community, served the temple. He would have served SWAHA with distinction, assistant in particular. I recall helping with Dholak, being a part of the group, playing Dantal and Dholak for Pandit Balaram and other pundits who would officiate at Om Shakti. In his 16 young years, would have done a lot. Pandit Umadutt, I think, was mentioning he knows the father would play cricket with him. That's Rashad Ali, I think. And to the father and the mother and the entire family, we extend our sincere condolences to the Ali family. They are supporters of SWAHA. They are, I'm sure, all in our nation and certainly our members of SWAHA, we pour out our hearts and our prayers, our love with this family. We, of course, would like to pray for the welfare of the soul of this young individual as we extend condolences. Not sure exactly when is the funeral, but definitely we remember him fondly, and we, to the family, our support is there with you at all times. I will end. I know we are concluding. If it's okay with our members, we end with a short prayer as we pray for the soul of this young man. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kansachanuramardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadguru. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Ram Nam Satya Hai. Om Panchatattva Shanti. Sitaram, dear viewers, and do join us next week as we continue this wonderful discussion on earth, dharma, but very importantly, the 4 stages of life. two that have been discussed this week. We continue with our esteemed Pandit Umadutt ji joining with the panel. Sitaram, everyone.